So our condition is one of shut-upness. The Christian believer in God, psychotherapist Carl Jung, who pushed back on Sigmund Freud's atheist view of human psychotherapy, said people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. This is you, this is me, and this is Carl Jung, but the Apostle Paul articulated this. Just spend a few minutes, maybe an hour or two, just rereading Romans chapter 3, where the Apostle Paul confronts us with the brutal reality that all of us are liars. Now, we think of lying in terms of just saying things with our mouths that are untrue. But Paul builds a picture of the deep inner workings of our deception along the lines of we're liars in the sense that we fabricate images of ourselves that we project to others in the hopes that they will believe them and not become aware of what it is that's really, really going on in the deep, dark recesses of our souls. We're liars in the sense that we build fictions about ourselves. We're liars in the sense that we're trying to believe that we're better than we actually are because, again, of the absence of a love that would allow us to face who we really are and penetrate through the darkness to the light on the other side.
Romans 2 and 3. Yes, exactly. Like we just did. Ty, I think you need to take your own advice here and examine more closely. Because what you claim the problem is isn't what the Bible says the problem is. It isn't man's psychology and lack of awareness of a person in the universe that loves them despite their shut-upness or whatever. It's that he's enslaved to sin with no desire for God. Romans 3, Romans 6:20. And until the sovereign God freely chooses to free the enslaved sinner, which he can bring about effectually. Until he does that, they will remain in their slavery to sin, and they like it. They get their desire. Having it told to them, there's a person that loves you despite your shut-upness and ugliness, is not what frees someone from slavery to sin, sir. You want to know what the real issue is, folks? Is that Adventists disdain the true God. They love their idol. They love their sin. Yet they think that they're champions of living sinlessly. Yet they're proselytizing a false God that they call Jesus. Yeah, so do Mormons. So do Jehovah's Witnesses. So does Christian Science. They don't like the real God because he has the freedom to do as he pleases. He's not some figure that's trying his best but just can't save sinners like he desires, so he needs your help in a great controversy to try and vindicate his character so that people will come to him. Totally foreign to the Bible. And if you don't like that, then stop calling yourself a Christian. Stop saying that you believe the Bible. The Bible doesn't say or teach, and I don't mean verbatim. I mean in any sort of exegetical defense, that an absence of the love of God is what keeps people from being able to face who they really are and penetrate through the darkness into the light on the other side. Ty, like we just looked at, Jesus explicitly states why rebel sinners don't come to the light. They love their sin. They're dead in their trespasses and sins. They're a slave to sin. They can't do any good. They don't want to come to the light. And until the sovereign Almighty Lord in his grace acts first by bestowing an undeserved miracle upon them, where he as the first cause frees them from their slavery to sin, they will continue on that path. He said, all of us are liars, Paul says in Romans 3. Ty, this is a major problem for you. Because if we're all liars, then you're not fitted for immortality or translation, which should terrify you. Because you guys believe Jesus could come at any possible second. Even though you guys also claim that the time of trouble and Sunday laws aren't conditional prophecies. They'll certainly come about, and they haven't happened yet. But Christ could come at any moment. I just saw one of these crazy charts that somebody shared on Facebook. They said their SDA cousin shared it. It looks like a dispensationalism chart. It's just like all these just craziness. It's like you were here, and there's all this other stuff to come. Oh, but he could come at any moment, right? Either way, this just further evidences why this flavor and brand of Adventism creates contradictions with what Ellen White claimed. And Ellen White is a far higher authority in Adventism than Ty Gibson, which puts him and those in like mind in the SDA catch-22. Either Ellen White was wrong, which causes serious errors, or what Ty is saying isn't true because what Ellen White said is, and it doesn't jive with what he's saying. Lying is the equivalent of bearing false witness, whether in word, thought, or deed, which his internal false image example fits the bill for. Well, that's one of the 10 commandments. I thought you guys were the commandment-keeping church, sir. I hear it constantly from SDAs every week. You guys are champions of being able to keep the 10 commandments perfectly with Jesus' help. And as we saw from Ellen White earlier, that's supposed to be in part why Jesus came, to upgrade you so that you can do like he did. If you truly come to him, victory over sin. It's supposed to be one of the 7 Adventist pillar doctrines. Yet here we have an Adventist pastor whose organization has a mission statement of vindicating the character of God, claiming that we're all active violators of the law because it extends beyond just your words, but even to your thoughts and innermost being. Amazing. Ty, you have blinders on, sir. You have blinders on. You're lost. You're saying stuff that evidences being lost. You don't understand how this can completely... The Adventist prophetess said God's character is vindicated when the perfect character of Jesus is perfectly reproduced in his people. When it's demonstrated that there's enough people who keep the 10 commandments perfectly, silencing Satan's accusation, that's when God's character is vindicated. Do you see the conundrum? This is why, whether Adventists like it or not, the traditionalist old path Adventists are the consistent ones. They're not sinlessly perfect either. They're deceiving themselves. But at least in their profession, they embrace the system as a whole because they know things like what Ty is espousing make a mess out of Seventh-day Adventist theology. Mr. Gibson, if you truly believe what you're saying here, which it sounds like you do, you need to get out of Dodge. Leave Adventism. Go to where the truth leads. Because you're correct. Christians still war with their sin, even after being freed from their slavery to it. The active war with sin is evidence that you've been freed. Because again, the lost person doesn't have that war going on. They love their sin. They don't hate it. Like Paul explains in Romans 7. It's like, if you ever see this, sir, I hope you stop to think about this more. The problems it creates for your profession as a Seventh-day Adventist. Then again, I've heard what you think being an Adventist is, and it's a really watered-down definition. Either way, what you're espousing here is most certainly not in line with the SDA system of theology.